Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to session 20 of La Mort d'Arthur, our Mythgard, our Did You Realize What You Were Getting Yourself Into Mythgard Academy class on Sir Thomas Malory's Mort d'Arthur. So welcome back. First of all, one thing, if I make any strange faces or anything during class tonight, I sustained a minor injury this evening. I didn't break anything. Pretty sure I didn't break anything. But I injured one of my feet. So I'm sitting here like, with my feet on the concrete floor. But I was like, you know what? If Sir Tristram can unseat Sir Palomides twice, like with the truncheon of Sir Lancelot's spear sticking out of his side, then like I can teach class with through an injury. Anyway, I'm almost exactly like the Fisher King Dolores Stroke. Not quite. Didn't get fully pierced, through both thighs or anything. Just a very serious contusion on one foot, but it's okay. Great, it was all good. It was in the act of violence, so that was all good. You should see the other guy. But it was good. Yeah, and Mike, no, I don't think I'll need wooden shoes. Not long term, anyway. Maybe. I guess you can't have short term prosthetics, can you? But I should be fine. I should be fine. It's all good. Yeah. So anyway, just just in case, I'm liable to forget about it and then shift my position and be like, whoa. Anyways, just wanted to make sure you weren't too surprised. Anyway, Mike Soyana recommends against the wooden shoes. So we have the Dutch person says that wooden shoes are a bad idea. So okay, I can so easily believe that. All right. Now, one other much more serious and positive and exciting, two announcements I wanted to make. One, short-term announcement, which is next Thursday night is the next Mythgard Movie Club. So I hope that you'll come and join us for a discussion of The Crimes of Grindelwald, which is really good. It's kind of a returning to the beginning, the first event that kind of kicked off the Mythgard Movie Club. Kind of got people, saying like, hey, this was really fun. We should keep doing this kind of thing. Was the One Fantastic Rogue Beast one where they talked about Rogue One and the Fantastic Beasts film last year. So doing the next Fantastic Beasts film is like a return to the origins of the club. So that should be a lot of fun. Zach, you have a lot of opinions about that movie. It's good. I haven't seen it yet. I've been meaning to catch it, but I haven't had a chance to yet. I'm looking forward to. I actually quite like the first one, but I haven't seen the second one yet. So, anyhow, so just wanted to remind you that's next Thursday, and make sure that you can join us for that. The second sort of broader announcement is just to remind you, I think I talked about this last week, but just to remind you about our holiday special for Anytime Audit gift certificates. So if you're looking for an interesting and sort of meaningful and substantial gift for a hard to find gifts for person on your list, consider getting a gift certificate for an Anytime Audit tuition for one of our Signum courses. We're running a special. Normally the Anytime Audit tuition, you can get one for yourself or you can get a gift certificate, is $95. We're running a special, so it's $75 for the whole holiday period. So between now and I think the end of the month. So for $75, you can get a gift certificate for somebody. They can choose whatever course they want from our entire selection, and from our whole archive. And you get access not only to all of the recording, the class recordings and all the recorded lectures, but you also get access to all of the handouts and so all of the reading assignments and the secondary readings and and you get access to our library resources and everything. So it's pretty cool. So I hope that you will consider that when you're buying gifts for folks in this holiday season. It's a pretty fun and unusual option. Yes, Takako, you're right. Our spring semester registration is heating up now. We have lots of registrations for spring. Really, really fun classes that are going on this spring, including things like our Intro to Anglo-Saxon class, which is always really popular. Our H.P. Lovecraft class. Our new class, the English Epic class, which is a really, really great one. Anyway, yeah. So it's very lots of cool options for the spring. So I trust you to I trust you to go to look through those on the Signum University website. So, all right, okay. Yeah, Tarlonio, the English Epic class is going to be really fun. It's sort of like I think the full title is The Life and Times of the English Epic. Really cool. One of the features of that class is we've been kind of really wanting to have a good Milton class at Signum for a while. We've never really covered Milton, so that was one of the things that kind of led us to this. But we loved the proposal for this class, which thinks sort of much more broadly about kind of the history of the approach to the epic in England. Anyway, really, it's going to be a great class. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and that is a brand new class. So there will be live lectures for that class. So that class that will have the Premier Audit option, meaning you can audit the class and live and sit in on the class sessions like as you are doing with this class now. So it's pretty cool. Let's see. What are the chances of it still being in Mallory when it's finished? Rachel asks. No comment on that. Pretty good. Pretty good, actually, on the subject of the English Epic. Yeah. Oh, Peter, I love Paradise Lost too. I don't think there is any more just like powerful and resonant application of the English language than in Milton's Paradise Lost. I remember the very first time I just like sat down and read book 1 of Paradise Lost, and I'm like, man, it feels like every line should be read like in reverb. It's just like, oh man, it's like it has to be. Many poems, beg to be read aloud, right? Paradise Lost begs to be declaimed. You just gotta, you can't just read it in any old voice. Yeah. And Spenser, oh, Rachel, there has rarely been an English poet with a more musical, with a more musical sense of the language than Edmund Spenser. The Fairy Queen is one of the most simply beautiful works of English poetry that I know of. It doesn't have that like the thunder and power of Milton, but it is so euphonious and lovely. I could read the Fairy Queen, Spenser's stanzas, so playful with his rhymes, so just so spot on with his rhythm and the sound, so gorgeous. And yes, Zach, it will be available for Anytime Audit when it's finished. So yeah, starting in the summertime, that'll be available for Anytime Audit. Absolutely. Yeah, cool. Anyway, yeah, so that's gonna be a really fun class that we're offering this coming spring. But anyway, all right, I should. Oh yeah, you read the Fairy Queen in high school? That's hardcore, Rachel. That's pretty serious. I loved the Fairy Queen. The Fairy Queen. I actually did my undergraduate thesis on the Fairy Queen. Was one of my very. It was funny because I was a medievalist, and I was like, I'm all about the Middle Ages, and I can't wait to go to college and study medieval stuff, and I did, and then I read the Fairy Queen, and I'm like, I'm writing on this, holy cow, and so here I am, the hardcore medievalist doing my thesis on a 16th century poem. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Yeah, if the Fairy Queen should ever win a Mythgard Academy election, that will also be a substantially lengthy class, as it's the longest poem in the English language. But it's it's it would be pretty sweet, I gotta say. But anyway, okay, all right. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about there. But let's get back to the. It's not exactly an epic, but the epic-ish Morte d'Arthur here by Thomas Malory. So, we last time didn't get as far as I wanted. Big surprise. So we were just getting up to we just got up to, but not including the madness of Sir Tristram. So let's get back to it here. Okay. So you'll remember that Sir Tristram thoughtfully brought his brother-in-law, though he left his wife at home, his semi-wife, at home in Brittany, when he comes back to Cornwall. And then his brother-in-law, Sir Caedhans, falls in love with La Belle Isoude, right? And so you'll remember he writes several plaintive letters to La Belle Isoude, and she wrote one kindly letter back to him, right? And then, now we come to the climactic and horrifying moment when Tristram discovers the letters, right? So there they are, all of them, all three of them. Is Brangwain there too? Is Gouvernail there too? I don't know. There's like a party going on in La Belle Isoude's private chamber, which and it's pretty clear at one point they talk about if they got caught there, everybody's in trouble, right? I mean, I'm reading this and I'm like, what are they, teenagers smoking pot late at night or something? I mean, it's one thing to be to sneak off to visit your lover in her chamber, and have her husband not catch you. That's kind of a standard thing, but the larger the cast gets, I'm like, what exactly is happening here? But anyhow, okay, so King Mark, however, is busy sitting down in the garden below playing chess or something. And but anyway, now Tristram has discovered the letters between his brother-in-law and his girlfriend. Oh dear. Then Sir Tristram is come unto La Belle Isoude and said, Madam, here is a letter that was sent unto you, and here is the letter that ye sent unto him that sent you that letter. Alas, madam, the good love that I have loved you, and many laundes and great riches have I forsaken for your love, and now ye are a traitoress unto me, which doth me great pain. But as for thee, Sir Caedhans, I brought thee out of Bretagne into this country, and thy father, King Howell, I won his landes. Howbeit, I wedded thy sister, Isoude le Blanche Mines, for the goodness she did unto me, and yet, as I am a true knight, she is a clean maiden for me. But wit thou well, Sir Caedhans, for thy falsehood and treason thou hast done unto me, I will revenge it upon thee. And therewithal Sir Tristram drew his sword and said, Sir Caedhans, keep thee. And then La Belle Isoude soned to the earth. And when Sir Caedhans saw Sir Tristram's come upon him, he saw none other boot, but leapt out at a bay window, even over the head, where sat King Mark playing at the chess. Yeah, he is playing chess. And when the king saw un come hurling over his head, I love this line, he sighed, Fellow! I can't handle it. Fellow, who art thou, and what is the cows thou leap out at that window? I gotta think that if I'm sitting there in the garden playing chess, and then a strange knight jumps out of my wife's second-story window over my head, I'm not gonna be like, Fellow, who art thou? As he goes by, I imagine as he's delivering this line, his head and body sort of tracking Sir Caedhans as he arcs overhead, and presumably falls to the ground, and Sir Caedhans, to his credit, has an answer, right? I didn't include his answer on the slide, right? But he's like, I was sleeping on the windowsill, and I was sitting on the windowsill and I fell asleep and accidentally tumbled out the window, right? He goes for the Apostle Paul excuse, and exactly, it's a defenestration interrogation, Sharon, but like it's. Usually you don't have an interrogation of someone who is in the process of defenestrating themselves, right? Anyway, so I think this is lovely. Right, yeah, Mike says King Mark, of course, couldn't pursue him because, kings can only move one square at a time. Yes, that does seem to be his problem. Yeah, so exactly, it's the Eutychus defense, Mike. That's exactly it. Sorry, that's Eutychus is the name of the guy. I forget what town they were in the book of Acts, who's sitting in the window while the Apostle Paul is preaching, and who falls asleep during the sermon and falls out the window and is taken up dead. Is the phrase in the King James. I love that phrase. He's taken up dead, and then the apostle, and then and then there's a miracle and he gets better. Yeah. Anyhow, okay, so, yeah. So, but anyway, apart from the comedy of the mid-air interview between King Mark and Sir Cahaidens, Tristram, right? So, I have to admit, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think of this. My impulse is to be a little bit outraged against Sir Tristram here, right? Saying, dude, like, seriously? She's not guilty of really anything. It's unclear. We're not told exactly what the content of her letter to Sir Cahaidens was, other than that it was kind. I forget the exact word. If anyone can find it, I think there's an adjective describing her letter or like her motivations. Like this, we're told only a very, very little. I'm forgetting the word that we were told about how she was treating him. She felt pity for him, and see, that's a tricky thing because on the one hand, a woman having pity on a man, traditionally, that has pretty serious overtones. That's like the number one favorite pickup line, right? I mean, the medieval courtly lovers' absolute number, like the most tried and true pickup line in the book in the Middle Ages is, "Fair damsel, I shall certainly die for your love if you do not have pity on me. So sleep with me or else you'll be guilty of murder and you'll have my blood on your conscience for the rest of your life." That's how the number one medieval pickup line generally goes. It's so pity is considered when the states of mind and virtues and things are allegorized, as we like to do in medieval poetry. Pity is always the ally of the lover, right? It's her pity that you want to appeal to. And it might seem counterintuitive, right? If you're trying to win the heart of a lady, pity me might not seem like your number one goal, right? That might not seem that it would necessarily be what winning would look like, right? Except it totally was in the way that they sort of framed things, right? Yeah, Carita informs me that men still do the "I'm dying" thing. I can believe it. I can believe it, Carita. Anyway, yeah. So if she is having, so there are implications. Like, to say she's having pity on him is one way of saying that she gives in. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that La Belle Isotte is, taking Sir Caedens as a lover behind Tristram's back. He's reacting as if that were the case. That's why I'm having a problem with this. Like, I always have a problem with this passage because I'm trying to figure out to what extent is to what extent it, well, okay. I guess it's just because I'm looking at Caedens, but that's an interesting kind of Freudian slip. But anyway, to what extent is Sir Tristram overreacting? Right? That's the question I'm not sure that I know the answer to. I agree with Carita and with Catriona that he seems to be primarily just she seems to be letting him down easy, right? Not that she's not, I don't think she's promising Sir Caedens anything. She's just, being kind to him. And letting him down easy. Agreed. Tristram's responds like, he wrote you love letters, and you wrote a letter back to him, right? And I love how he does this reveal, like it's the end of an Agatha Christie novel or something here, right? Here is the letter that you sent. Here is a letter that was sent to you. And here is a letter that was sent to the person who sent you this letter, right? And that person is you, Sir Caedens, right? I mean, that's, okay. So, yeah, Torlonial, that's exactly it, right? Torlonial says, I got married, but never mind that. You wrote a letter to somebody. Yeah, now again, within the framework of the medieval courtly love tradition, writing a letter can be a big deal. Showing pity and kindness towards a man who is wooing you can be a big deal. It can be, you can, once you kind of commit yourself, even in a small way, then you can be committed. I mean, that's that could be taken as very plain encouragement, even a commitment on your part. Yeah, Tristram, one would think, would have small grounds to complain, as he did in fact go and marry somebody else. Now he brings that up himself. The two things that interest me here about his bringing that up. So he's not trying to hide this. Of course, it's kind of hard to hide that when his brother-in-law is literally the other knight in question. However, the two things that interest me about There are three things that interest me about that sentence, the sentence about Isolde le Blanche Mains. One is that it begins with the word howbeit, right? Howbeit I wedded thy sister, but wit thou well, right? I'm just looking at the sort of the logical flow of Tristram's thought here. By introducing the sentence with the word howbeit, he seems to acknowledge that this is a point against him, right? Despite the fact that, like, although I did marry, like, that's kind of like what the word howbeit means in that, or how I take the word howbeit in that context. So it seems like he is framing it as an acknowledgement that, this is a black mark against his record and he's coming out with it. And then how does he contextualize it? Howbeit I wedded thy sister, for the goodness she did unto me. Okay, so what, like you had a good reason to marry her? Okay, I don't see how that makes it better when it comes to the question of your faithfulness to La Belle Isolde, right? I mean, what if Sir Caedens is showing goodness to her, right? But anyway, and then his proclamation that she's a clean maiden for him, as if that makes it okay, right? We didn't consummate the marriage. One of the things that shows, at the very least, is that he feels the need to excuse himself. He's trying to get himself off on a technicality as well. It's let's see, Devra's asking if he's choosing this moment to admit he never slept with his wife. No, that's definitely come up before. I mean, I know the narrators told us about it, but I'm pretty sure he has bragged about that in the past. And yes, Crystal Eowyn swooned means swooned. Izzo just faints dead away at the moment that Sir Tristram is challenging Sir Caedhens to combat here in her bedroom. Yeah, I did remember that he bragged about it in his letter to Lancelot, right? Again, trying to excuse himself. He keeps holding that up as if it should be an accepted, moderating factor, right? You know, when you are judging my case as to whether or not I've been unfaithful as a lover, keep in mind, that she's a clean maiden as for me, right? Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing, Dolorous-Struck, because he just said I smoked, but I didn't inhale, and I swear to God, Dolorous-Struck, I was just thinking of Bill Clinton myself when you typed that. Yes. Doesn't this sound like a slightly Clintonian argument that Tristram is making here? That's exactly what I was thinking of. You caught me in the middle of the, do I really want to go there moment? But no, obviously I have to. No, it's, again, he seems to feel that this clearly gets him off in some sense on some kind of technicality. Does it though? That is that how others receive it? La Belle Isoud has accepted him back. Lancelot seems to have forgiven him. What I can't figure is this just because they're good and kind and charitable and generous to him, or is it because they accept his excuse and they're like, oh, well, okay, he didn't actually. Fine, then, right? If she's a clean maiden, then, it's good. So we got to third base, but no further. Oh, fine, okay. In that case, the betrayal is off, right? All the things that we said about him being a false lover, we take back. Yeah. Well, see, Nancy, if it were anybody else who were changing their minds about Sir Tristram, I would think that it would be because they didn't want to fight with him. But not Lancelot, though. Lancelot's not going to back down for that reason. And Zach, I feel very much that I feel like I'm not really getting things here. That is, okay, well, Zach, I agree with you. Zach Coleman was just saying, I wouldn't be happy if I was the brother-in-law. This is a pretty lousy thing to do to his sister. Agreed. And I'm tempted to think the same way, right? To be like, man, if I were Sir Caedhens, I would be kind of ticked. But Sir Caedhens does not seem to feel that way. Sir Caedhens is like Tristram's #1 fan, right? I mean, he's coming along with him, not just as his friend, but he's coming along with him as his, he's not his lackey, that's unfair, but he's like Tristram's fanboy. And remember, it was in part her brother and her father's good offices that convinced him, anyway, to marry Isolde Le Blanche-Maine. So he was, Sir Caedhens was Tristram's fan before Tristram married his sister. And yet, sidekick. Yeah, exactly, Deborah. He has come here as Tristram's sidekick. He's self-consciously Tristram's sidekick, right? Anyway, so I can't track Sir Caedhens' response. So, Zach, what I can't figure out is, Are we just wrong about that, you and me? Like, is this like, are we just projecting what we would feel if someone treated our sister this way and talked about or bragged about, our sister this way to like the, his, girlfriend on the side? Or so maybe it's just us. Maybe it's just us. Like, it's how we would feel about it, but they don't feel this way. And so we shouldn't expect Circa Haydns to react the same way that we would react in that same position. That kind of thing often happens in medieval literature, so you have to be careful about that kind of thing. However, it also just could be that, Malory is insufficiently interested in Circa Haydn's character to tell us what's going on in Circa Haydn's head exactly. I don't really know. But yeah, Rachel, it's possible that Circa Haydn's attitude could be seen as a strike against his character, against Circa Haydn's character. Possibly. But first of all, how could anybody with that many Y's in their name be wrong, right? But apart from that, we don't get any other prompting that I can see in the text to criticize Circa Haydn's. I'm always, and we've been talking about this since the very first class, I'm always looking for those cues, right? Those little directives we get, those little promptings that the text will give us. It doesn't always, but, what kind of feedback do we get? What kind of, and I don't see, Circa Haydn seems to be a great guy. Yeah. I don't know. Karina's not a fan. The Y's in his name is the best and only defense you've heard so far. It's tough, but I hear he is quick-witted, Marilyn. I agree that not everybody could come up with that defense mid-flight through the air. Yeah. Okay, so Zach adds, everyone's acceptance of Tristram's excuse suggests that what was done to the other Isolde was the right thing to do. Well, it was not necessarily from her point of view. See, this is again where the conflict comes, I find. It doesn't mean it was great to do to her. Maybe it was. I mean, if she's still a queen maiden, she could remarry. And no harm, no foul, right? I mean, as he's pretty much walked away from her at this point, I guess. But, yeah. I don't know. I'm just not sure how I'm supposed to feel about... Well, no, I mean, I am sure how we're supposed to feel about Tristram and Isolde, though. Tristram and Isolde 1, that is, Tristram and La Belle Isolde, because like they're like one of the two greatest pairs of lovers, right? They are the second best lovers in the world. We're supposed to approve of them. We're supposed to disapprove, not of Isolde Le Blanchemains herself. She didn't do anything wrong. But we are supposed to disapprove of Tristram marrying her. And so I think we're supposed to imagine his last minute stopping at third base on their wedding night to be a good thing on his part. Almost a day late, a dollar short, but not quite, right? I mean, he comes right up to the cliff and then stops, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, Karina. I really shouldn't say no harm, no foul, especially since she's going to die young out of love for pining away for Tristram, I think. So both harm and foul there, really. Yeah. Oh, but Karina, I wouldn't worry too much about her childbearing years because she's probably like 14. Seriously, Isolde Le Blanchemains is probably like, I don't know, maybe not 14, but I bet she's probably not more than 16. So she's still got plenty of childbearing years left. Anyway, I like I said, this is one of the things, personally, so you know that I'm very reluctant to draw the conclusion that says, I don't think that this bit of the story is working very well. Yeah, I'm very slow to come to that conclusion. This is one of the reasons why I incline in that direction, that I think that Malory does not seem invested in the Tristram and Isolde story like he's going to be invested in the Lancelot and Guinevere story later on. And it seems to me that we are kind of going through certain motions in order to, as I was arguing at the beginning of the Tristram story, in order to establish certain scenarios, certain precedents, certain ideas and concepts to prepare us for things which are going to be important later on, right? But I don't think that he has really invested enough in... So whether or not he cared about it, the story itself doesn't really seem to invest enough in their stories. Honestly, I feel that the story, the anguish and frustration of Sir Palomides is a much more well-drawn and nuanced story than the story of La Belle Isotte, or of Sir Tristram himself, really, certainly in his affair with La Belle Isotte. His relationship with Sir Palomides, however, is a much more interesting story, I think. Dolly, I agree. It's hard not to think that Tristram, at the very least, that Tristram is applying a pretty wicked double standard here, right? It's okay to marry someone else, but if she writes a letter, then she betrays him. No matter what happens, I really think that he is overreacting here. But this is what makes it the more interesting. This sequence, of course, is all leading up to his madness, to his running mad in the woods. And if the basis of his insanity is sort of clouded by hypocrisy and overreaction on his part, it really undermines the whole insanity thing, right? But I have a hard time really investing in Sir Tristram's insanity anyway. Sir Tristram's insanity has always seemed a little pro forma to me. Yeah. And Lynn, isn't Sir Palomides more interesting? Yeah, we'll get to Sir Palomides in a minute. Carita, I agree. And honestly, that what you're describing is going to continue happening more and more. Carita was just saying, the more I read this, the more I feel like Tristram and Palomides is the real story, and Isolde is just there to trigger their conflict. I agree. And again, I think that's going to become more rather than less pronounced. Absolutely. Tristram and Palomides is the real story, and the real female lead is Brangwain, who's everywhere, right? She's the one who actually does stuff and is involved in things. Anyway, okay, let's keep going. How about that? Here's another reason why I don't really have why I have a hard time investing in Tristram's madness, is that he does this so gradually. It almost seems like he's got to work himself up to it, right? And there by fortune the damsel. So the damsel in question that we're talking about here is Sir Palomides' damsel. The word has gone out, right, about the blow up with La Belle Isotte and Sir Cahydens and the defenestration and Tristram running off, right? So the rumor mill's been working on this. Sir Palomides has heard that Tristram has run off into the woods. So he sends his damsel. He's got a damsel. I don't know what her affiliation is, but he's got a damsel, and he sends her off to hunt for Sir Tristram. And this damsel hunts high and low. She's dedicated to her job, right? And she's looking for Sir Tristram. And there by fortune the damsel met with Sir Tristram again, making the greatest dole that ever earthly creature mad, and she yode to the laddie of that castle, and told of the misadventure of Sir Tristram. Alas, said the laddie of that castle, where is my lord Sir Tristram? Richt here by your castle, sighed the damosel. In good time, said the laddie. Is he so nigh me? He shall have meat and drink of the best, and an harp I have of his, whereupon he talked me, for of good harping he beareth the price of the world. Am I a bad person for thinking like, oh, Sir Tristram gave her harping lessons? Okay, oh, she's another one. Anyway, so this laddie and damosel brought him meat and drink, but he ate little thereof. Then upon a nicht he put his horse from him, and unlassed his armour, and so he yode unto the wilderness, and brast down the trees and bowers. 4 reasons. And other while, when he found the harp that the laddie sent him, then wold he harp and ply thereupon, and weep togedders. And sometime, when he was in the wood, the laddie wist not where he was. Then wold she set her down, and play upon the harp, and anon Sir Tristram would come to the harp, and hearken thereto, and sometime he would harp himself. Remember Tristram's first scene, right? Not the one where he was born, but the first action that he played in, right? When he comes to Cornwall and delivers it from the truage. Remember who he was then? We had a very clear we had a very clear biblical parallel, remember? Right? What was yeah, exactly. He was David, and Sir Marhaus was Goliath, right? Now, you're right, Mike. Now he's a little bit like Nebuchadnezzar, at least Nebuchadnezzar from Daniel chapter 4, right? Going mad for a while and then coming back out. But the responding to the harp, right? Having his madness eased by the harp. Now he's like Saul, right? For those of you who don't know, one of the other stories about the young David before he becomes king, when King Saul is still king. King Saul has these bad days, you know, his an evil spirit that comes upon him by the Lord. By the way, my understanding, I don't think that means like God sends a demon to afflict him, but he has an evil, like he is in evil spirits. He is distempered, you know, in his spirits. But his affliction is helped by the harping of young David. So young David comes and plays the harp to ease the spirit of King Saul in his malady. So King Mark was Saul, Tristram was David, Marhaus was Goliath in that fairly clear parallel that we got back at the beginning of Tristram's career. Kind of interesting that it's kind of interesting that we should have Tristram in the King Saul role here, I think. Yeah. Anyway, but again, the thing that I find unconvincing about Tristram is that he starts off in this semi-mad state. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not insane. I'm just really upset, right? So I'm running off into the woods and I'm moaning a lot and stuff, but I've not gone completely insane. You can tell because I'm still clothed, right? And then he seems to come to the decision, right, to run mad. And so he like gets rid of his horse and he takes off his armor and strips himself of his clothing and runs off into the woods. Yeah. Got a couple people. Lee was just remembering Sir Orfeo here, the whole like harping and madness in the woods. Yeah, it should. Orfeo is Tristram is a great harper. He's not Sir Orfeo, right? I don't think I don't think that like the birds and beasts come to listen to his harping when he's harping. But you're right that we do get a kind of reversal, Lee, here, right, where the lady is harping and he is coming to her. Yeah. So And I don't see any... I don't see any reason to think that Malory is thinking either of Sir Orfeo, the poem itself, or of even the Orpheus legend, which of course Sir Orfeo was deliberately adapting. So I don't see that. It seems that the point here is we're recalling it's his contact with like the cultured world, right? Harping was his thing. This is the one thing he comes back and recognizes. The one thing which remains his contact with human civilization, right? Which he has otherwise left behind in his woodness. Yeah. Yeah. And I just love the rescue squad. Thus Sir Tristramus endured there an half year naked, and would never come in town ne village. I hope it was the summer half of the year that he was enduring in the woods naked. So the meanwhile, the damosel that Sir Palomides sent to seek Sir Tristram, she yode unto Sir Palomides, and told him of all the mischief that Sir Tristram endured. Alas, sighed Sir Palomides, it is great pity that ever so noble a knight should be so mischieved for the love of a laddie. But nevertheless I will go and seek him, and comfort and I may. Then a little before that time, La Beale Isoud had commanded Sir Kehydians out of the country of Cornwall. So Sir Kehydians departed with a dolorous heart, and by adventure he met with Sir Palomides. They fellowship together, and either complained to other of their hot love that they loved La Beale Isoud. So the one thing that Sir Kehydians and Sir Palomides have in common is that the two of them love La Beale Isoud, and Sir Tristram is in their way. And so it's the two of them who meet up together, bond over this, and then the two of them go to try to rescue and help Sir Tristram. Mike says, so does naked just mean out of his armor? No, I think it means he's actually legitimately naked. I think this is, the whole like garment rending thing. Like he takes off his armor and throws it aside. But I think he's legitimately naked, running around through the woods. Yeah. So notice it is possible, of course, to do a reading of this where Sir Palomides is hoping to take advantage of the opportunity to take advantage of the opportunity to hunt Sir Tristram down and kill him while he's naked in the woods, right? I mean, I definitely think that that's definitely a possibility. But I don't believe that at all. And comfort him and I may, right? You can say that in an ominously, ironic tone, but I don't think so. And I don't think that he's sending his damsel off to spy on him with malicious intent either. Sir Palomides seems legitimately upset that he is having such problems, right? That Sir Tristram is mischieved for the love of a laddie. There is this sense, right, in which, notice, so mischieved for the love of a laddie. And then in the next paragraph, he's talking about how Sir Palomides is talking to Sir Kehydians about their hot love with which they loved La Beale Isoud. So his response when he hears that Tristram is run mad into the woods is not, come on, man, like, keep your perspective, right? Or rather, no, his it's not, oh man, like there but for the grace of God go I, right? I totally feel you, Sir Tristram. I mean, I've almost like stripped naked and run off into the woods many times because of my hot love for La Belle Isoude, right? But no, he's like, boy, man, this is really terrible for the love of a lady, like any old lady. It doesn't matter. He does, there but for the grace of God run I. Exactly, Mike. Yeah. Yeah, Mighty Felix on Twitch thinks that these guys should all just agree that Isolde is trouble and go out for a beer or something. In her defense, Felix, I would say it's not her fault. She didn't really ask for this, but not even for Tristram, really, as remember there was a love potion involved, though she was kind of into him before that anyhow. But yeah. Aha, yeah, Carita says, Sir Palamides appears to be capable of empathy, unlike some knights whom we will not name. Right. Yeah. So, running off mad, let's see. Is that correct in the social context, but ultimately not that important? Well, let's see. It's running mad into the woods is a thing. I mean, it's an accepted. It happens. Like it's an occupational hazard. Well, remember I said last time, like I'm not sure whether to call it an occupational hazard or a lifestyle choice, right? With Tristram, I'm tempted to call it a lifestyle choice at this particular time, but it's yeah. So, Mike, I do think that the instead of judging him for being emo, the depth of his love speaks well for his depth of passion. Yeah, no, like the greatest of lovers is gonna like, yes. If your lady betrays you, or if you think your lady is betraying you, if you're massively overreacting and accusing your lady of betraying you, and you don't feel almost intolerably powerful emotions, then you're a pretty milquetoast lover. You really are. So yeah, no, that running mad can in that way, living naked in the woods for half a year goes on your resume. Honestly, it does. Notice that he is never an object of scorn. That is, no one ever is like, oh, sir, did you hear that Sir Tristram ran mad in the woods? Like, Sir Tristram was running naked in the woods for 6 months. Oh, can you even believe that, right? No one says that. Whenever anyone hears that Sir Tristram is running mad, everyone is just sorry for him, right? Oh, boy, we hope Tristram gets better, right? It's sort of something that he's going through, and it's fine, right? Yeah. Anyway, Yeah. Rachel, yes, it is. I think of Don Quixote here. There are a lot of parts of Mallory that make me think of Don Quixote, but yeah. He's running mad as sort of night sabbatical. I don't know. I mean, it's not like something you're entitled to once every 7 years or something like that, right? That's right. Sorry. No, I'd love to attend the tournament, but I can't. I'm running mad next semester. It's been a long time coming for me. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah. So, okay. Sorry. Let's move on. I was really kind of hoping that Sir Haydns and Sir Palamides would become BFFs for life, but so King Mark finds Sir Tristram, but needless to say, no one can recognize him. Right now, you don't have to be in armor to not be able to recognize people. Now, he's been running naked for 6 months, so he's hairy. He's gonna look like he's gonna look like, the hermit in the Life of Brian, but so sure, he's probably got the crazy hair going on. He's been bruised, and I don't know, but it still seems a little bit of a stretch that no one, including La Belle Isoude, doesn't recognize him, right? I mean, you'd think if there were anyone who could identify Sir Tristram in the nude, it would be La Belle Isaud, right? But no, apparently that doesn't work either. Like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's, Karita, I agree. It's a really good thing that nobody has to come and identify anybody's body, right? It kind of made me, like, it would be like a really, like, sort of black humor, comic, sort of Mallory joke, to have somebody come to, being asked to identify a body and be like, I have no idea, I've never seen that person before, right? Nobody could ever identify the body. And yes, Karita, absolutely, the last thing you want to do is put any of these guys in front of a police lineup, right? I mean, that would be an even funnier, because less horrible context for that very same Mallory joke, right? Anyway, so it befell upon a day that the Queen La Belle Isaud heard of such a man that ran naked in the forest, and how the king had brought him home to the court. Then La Belle Isaud called unto her Dame Brangwine, and said, Come on with me, for we will go see this man that my lord brought me from the forest the last day. Brocht, not me. Brocht from the forest. He didn't bring him home as a gift for his wife, in fact. Brocht from the forest the last day. So they passed forth, and speered where was this sick man. And then a squire told the queen that he was in the garden taking his rest to repose him against the sun. So when the queen looked upon Sir Tristram, she was not remembered of him, but ever she sighed unto Dame Brangwine, Meseems I should have seen this man here before in many places. He looks, there's something familiar about him, but I just can't quite place him. But as soon as Sir Tristram saw her, he knew her well enow, and then he turned away his visage and wept. Then the queen had always a little brachet that Sir Tristram gaf her the first time that ever she come into Cornwall, and never would that brachet depart from her, but if Sir Tristram were nigh, thereas was La Belle Isaud. And this brachet was first sent from the king's doctor of France unto Sir Tristram's for great love. Of course, right? So Sir Tristram regifted the Princess of France falls in love with Sir Tristram and sends him a brachet, right? Sends him a dog. And he regifts the dog to his girlfriend. Right? That is so wrong. But anyway. And anon, this little brachet fell to savour of Sir Tristram. He leapt upon him, and licked his lares and his ears, and then he whined and quested, and she shelled at his feet, and at his hondes, and on all the parties of his body that she might come to. Ah, my laddie, said Dame Brangwine, alas, I see it is mine own lord Sir Tristramus. Okay, and anon this little brachet felt a savour of Sir Tristram, right? She gets a whiff of Sir Tristram, and she knows who it is, yes. Brachet ex machina. Yeah, exactly, Doris Stroke. Yeah. Oh, so his liris, those are his cheeks. So his liris, so she's licking his cheeks and his ears. I love the licking his ears thing. Right, she licks his cheeks and his ears, and then so the pronouns, you got to bear with the pronouns here. I believe that it's very interesting actually, because Mallory says he several times. The dog is a brachet, which is by definition female. Okay, you don't call male dogs brachets. If it's a brachet, it's a female. So. And the brachet, she gets appropriately feminine pronouns sometimes, right? Like she and that she may come to, right there at the bottom. But then sometimes he uses the masculine pronouns. Why does the gender of the dog shift, Arthur? See, I don't really. The dog is gender fluid. Maybe it is. I think it's my suspicion is that he's using he because it's a dog. So he's using he generically, like you would say it, basically. Um, but that is not very common. But she's sniffing at his feet and hands is what she's doing. So she's licking his face and she's whining and questing, meaning she's barking, right? And she's sniffing his feet and his hands and all the parts of his body that she might come to, doubtless the indecorous ones, like dogs always do. Yeah. See, Karina, I think that he knows. I'm sorry. Door stroke. Yeah, you could construct a reading in which the he is somebody else, right? So if it's he, it's not the dog. So I kind of like the idea, Dolly, that. Yeah, I don't know. Is there a squire there that's leaping on Tristram and licking his ears and cheeks? See, then he whined and quested could be Tristram, right? That could be his response to that. He could be responding in the dog's own language there. But anyway, but Sharon, yeah, are we supposed to be remembering Odysseus's dog? Yeah, and Mike, you were thinking the same thing. Gopher Nile. Yeah, Zach, you can almost imagine Gopher Nile leaping up and licking his ears and cheeks, right? Gopher Nile would be really excited to see him again. Yeah, you can't rule out a second licker, Deborah. You're absolutely correct. The dog perhaps is contenting herself to sniff at his feet and hands, while Gopher Nile is the one without self-restraint who is leaping upon him and licking his face. Yeah, I love that reading. Oh dear, but yeah, I you know, Karina, agreeing with what you were saying before, I kind of have to think, like, Mallory's obviously had dogs, right? And anyone who's actually, I mean, I have a Bratchett myself, and this is exactly how my Bratchett behaves as well. You know, this is like, like how my Bratchett behaves when we pick her up from the kennel after we've been away for a week, right? So yeah, I think that this is very, very lovely Bratchett behavior. But I would also, this is one of those moments, it's a small point, but this is one of those moments when Mallory is really kind of beginning to get there in some ways, I think. You know, this is such a delightful little moment, a delightful little touch. This is really fun storytelling, and really, I don't know, medieval literature doesn't have a lot of moments like this, actually, with the dog. Even though dogs recognizing people are a thing, like Sharon, you were mentioning Odysseus. Yes, though, note the Odyssey, not super well known in the Middle Ages yet. Very, very popular in the Renaissance, much less so in the Middle Ages. We know the story, basically, of Odysseus, but we don't really know Homer. But yeah, the parallels with Odysseus and Argus are hard to completely overlook. However, yeah. Anyway, okay. Later on, after he's recovered, right? So he's all better now and everything's fine, and she explains how she, like, you know, he needs to, like, grow up about the letters and everything, and then he's fine. We're closing in now on the tournament of the Castle of Maidens, and there are all of these people running around trying to kill Sir Lancelot, right? And there will get multiple occasions of 30 knights lying in ambush. That appears to be the standard number of knights in an anti-Sir Lancelot posse, basically, right? So Sir Tristram is traveling with Sir Dinadan, and they hear of, this damsel tells them of a plot to kill Sir Lancelot, and that there are 30 knights lying in wait to kill Sir Lancelot. "Now, fair damosel," sighed Sir Tristram, "bring me to that Sam Place where they shall meet with Sir Lancelot." Then sighed Sir Dinadan, "What will ye do? It is not for us to fight with 30 knights, and wit you well I will not thereof. As to match all knight, 2 or 3 as ye know, and they be men, but for to match 15 knights, that I will never undertake." "Fie for sham," sighed Sir Tristram, "do but your part." I think I missed a bit here. But anyway, so Tristram is refusing to get rid of his shield. "Nay," sighed Sir Tristram, "I will not depart from my shield for her sack that gaffet me. But one thing," sighed Sir Tristram, "I promise thee, Sir Dinadan, but if thou wilt promise me to abide with me right here, I shall slay thee. For I desire no more of thee, but answer unknight, and if thy heart will not serve thee, stand by and look upon." "Sir," sighed Sir Dinadan, "I will promise you to look upon, and do what I may to save myself, but I would I had not met with you." Okay, couple interesting things here. Miro and I agree. Sir Dinadan is kind of awesome, right? He is the only sarcastic knight that we've met. Like, Sir Kay, fancies himself a wit, right? But Sir Dinadan is legitimately funny, right? This guy is hysterical. So Sir Dinadan feels compelled to point out that if 30 knights are lying in wait to murder Sir Lancelot, the best way to go about thwarting this plan is not to allow them to murder you instead, right? So Sir Tristram is like, let us go spring the trap, right? Let's go attack let's get those 30 men to attack us instead, and then we'll fight them off, so that then they won't be attacking Lancelot. And Sir Dinadan is like, am I the only one who sees a problem with this plan, right? This does not seem like a cunning plan. No, I don't think there is any connection between Dinadan and Dunadan. I am very sure that this is another one of those examples of I could imagine if you could go up to Tolkien and say, were you thinking of Sir Dinadan when you named the Dunedain? He would look puzzled for a minute, and it would just be like, those two words have nothing to do with each other. I don't even understand why you're connecting them, right? Yeah. Oh, right, James. Yeah, the bit that was left out is another insult about the Knights of Cornwall. Yeah, I thought it was something like that. But anyway, okay. So Sir Dinadan is super interesting, not just because he's like the sardonic knight, which is very unusual among the Knights of the Round Table, but he's like the only one who speaks from a non-heroic standpoint. He is unapologetically unheroic, right? Most of the other knights that we've met, right? Sir Tristram, Sir Lancelot, Sir Lamorak, Sir Gareth, right? Even Sir Lacote Maltau. Sir Lacote Maltau would do this, right? He'd lose, but he'd do it, right? He'd be game. Anyway, Dinadan is the only person who talks like this, who says, hang on, dude, like, this is dumb for us to go fight 30 people, right? and he's like, matching myself against 2 or 3, really, that's plenty. That's like more than enough. I'm not going to undertake to match 15 knights. The way that Sir Dinadan serves as a kind of a foil for Tristram here, right? Tristram's enthusiasm, his sort of, empty-headed enthusiasm, right? Fie for sham, do but your part, right? Threatening to kill Sir Dinadan if Sir Dinadan like chickens out, right? Sir Tristram's sort of biting remark after the death threat, his biting remark, he's like, look, you just fight one, I'll take the other 29, right? And it doesn't Sir Dinadan make Sir Tristram sound a little imbalanced in this whole sequence, right? And if thy heart will not serve thee, stand by and look upon. Just stand by and watch if you don't have the guts to fight, right? And Sir Dinadan says, I will promise you to look upon and do what I may to save myself, but I wold I had not met with you. He doesn't back down, right? He never backs down. He doesn't like, oh, Sir Tristram, you shame me. If you are willing to take on all 29, then surely I can do my small part. And I may, like, I keep expecting him to come around to that, but he doesn't, right? I promise you I'll do what I can to save myself, right? That would be prudent. Sure, yeah. But boy, do I wish I hadn't met you, right? It was an unlucky day for me when I became your companion. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Karina. This was one of my favorite subtitles. It was almost inescapable. Yeah. Yeah, Dolores Stroke, I agree. Tristram is actively beefing up his resume here, right? I mean, he's now got ran mad for half a year on it, right? And now he's adding the vanquished 30 knights single-handedly with only the help of Sir Dinadan, right? Yeah. It's not the end of Sir Dinadan. Sir Dinadan fights with him and does a great job, right? Notice Sir Dinadan is much more cowardly in word than in deed, right? He always does, Marilyn, as you say, he always comes through, in fact, right? When it comes to calling into question the prudence of deeds of chivalry, he's all talk, right? He is, in fact, a stalwart companion and friend. Oh dear, sorry. Hit the wrong thing there. So yeah, he is a stalwart companion, even though he doesn't talk the talk, right? So he's been knocked off his horse, and Sir Tristram is like, let's go and attack those guys over there now. Then Sir Tristram lasted on Sir Dinadan's helm and pried him to help him. I will not, sighed Sir Dinadan, for I am sore wounded of the 30 knights that we had to do withal. But ye far, said Sir Dinadan, as a man that were out of his mind, that would cast himself away. Like, are you suicidal, man? He's saying, right? And I may curse the time that ever I saw you, for in the world are not 12 such knights that are so wood as is Sir Launcelot and ye, Sir Tristram, for I honest fell in the fellowship of Sir Launcelot, as I have done now with you, and he set me so a work that a quarter of a year I kept my bed. Jesus defend me, said Sir Dinadan, from such 12 knights, and specially from your fellowship. Then sighed Sir Tristram, I will fight with them both. And anon Sir Tristram bade him come forth both, for I will fight with you. Tristram is on he's on this like manic stretch right now, right? But anyway, yeah, he Zach Coleman says whenever Sir Dinadan says that he wished he'd never met Sir Tristram, the narrator should break in and say, not for the last time did he wish that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, Nancy, it is kind of cute how totally cute or disturbing, depending on your point of view, how totally undeterred Sir Tristram is by all of this. Um, yeah, yeah. But again, notice how he lumps Tristram and Lancelot together. So notice, although he is sardonic, even sarcastic at times, he's not Sir Kay. He's not insulting, right? I mean, he's saying, that Sir Tristram is acting like is insane and suicidal, and Jesus defend him from falling into the company of Sir Tristram or Sir Lancelot. But of course, by lumping Tristram in with Sir Lancelot, he's also complimenting him, and complimenting him in a way that he surely knows is most thoroughly qualified to, or calculated rather, to please Sir Tristram, the compliment that he will value most. Yeah, yeah. It's just interesting to me that we get this voice at all, right? That anybody talks like this. It's pretty, it's kind of fun. Yeah, Jennifer, I agree. The parallel between the way that Sir Dinadan is kind of like the Sancho Panza to Lancelot and Tristram's Quixotes, right? Yes, the one who is looking on with an almost Sancho Panza. Well, no, Sancho Panza himself also is, though he is constantly critical and rather down on the whole circumstance, also is reliable in general. Anyway, I keep getting tempted to talk about Don Quixote, but I shan't. Okay. Here's another one of those days in the life of Sir Lancelot. This is, of course, the day before the Castle of Maidens. Right so Sir Lancelot rode his way, and rode to a well to drink and repose him. And they of Northgalis espied him whither he went, and thon there followed him 12 knightes for to have mischieved him, for this cause that upon the morn at the tournament at the Castle of Maidens, that he should not win the victory. He's going to be on the other side of them from the tournament, right? And so they're trying to take Lancelot out before the tournament can start. So they come upon Sir Lancelot suddenly, and unneth he might put on his helm and take his horse, but they were in hundes with him. Unneth, is a wonderful old word, means barely or scarcely. Unneth he might put on his helm. He could barely put his helmet on before they were in hundes with him. And then Sir Lancelot gat his spear in his hand, and upon the left hand, that within a few strokes he had slain other 3 knightes. And the remnant that abode, he wounded him sore, all that did abide. Thus Sir Lancelot escaped from his enemies of Northgalis. And then Sir Lancelot rode his way till a friend, and lodged him till on the morrow, for he would not the first day have ado in the tournament, because of his great labour. And on the first day he was with King Arthur, thereas he was set on high upon a chaflet, to discern who was the best worthy of his deeds. So Sir Lancelot was with King Arthur, and justed not the first day. This is the kind of thing that Sir Lancelot faces all the time, right? People trying to gang up on him, either for vengeance because he's killed some of their relatives, which he probably did, or in this case, in order to even the odds in the tournament, right, in favor of North Wales. The King of North Wales. Doesn't the King of North Wales sort of start to sound like what were they called? Oh, I'm totally forgetting. I'm blanking on the. What's the name of that? The name of the basketball team that never won a game? Was it the Washington Generals? Was it? The Generals. It was the Generals. Yeah. Yeah. The Washington Generals, the team who just goes around to play against the Harlem Globetrotters and lose all the time. Yeah. The King of North Wales kind of reminds me of the Washington Generals. Yeah. Anyway. So they're so them ganging up, him defending himself and, managing to beat all 12 of the guys who come after him. But then he's going to retire up to the press box, right, and to the to King Arthur's luxury suite to watch the tournament, and he's not going to participate in the first day because he's all tuckered out from having beaten the 12 guys here. Let's see, are North Galles and North Wallace two different places? No, they are not. G's and W's are kind of interchangeable. That's why people will occasionally and delightfully ride a great wallop on their horses. Like they'll get on their horses and they'll go walloping, which just means galloping. But yeah, no, it's G's and W's. Philologists could explain that perhaps better than I can. Yeah. So it's, yeah, Galles and Wallace are the same. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a thing you can see in sort of in the history of English, right? All the way, like think of, Guillaume and William, right? Yeah, there are lots of warden and guardian. Yeah, sure. Okay, anyway, so let's start our tournament here. First, a note about how tournaments work. We need to make sure that we're understanding this. Of course, lest we be very confused when we're reading the tournament. Perhaps you were imagining like a single or a double elimination bracket, right? For these tournaments, like they did the tournaments in the Heath Ledger film, right? Which was like a single elimination bracket, right? With everybody coming and jousting in the lists and everything. That's not how the tournaments work in Malory at all, right? If there's one sentence that best captures how tournaments work in Sir Thomas Malory, it's the second one here on this slide. Then there was hurling and rushing. That's how tournaments work here, right? So here's the description. Notice how this sport is played. And anon the Connectes began the field. What of the King of North Galles side and of King Carados? And there began a great party. Then there was hurling and rushing. Right so come in Sir Persides and Sir Tristram, and so they did far that day that they put the King of North Galles aback. Then came in Sir Bleoberis de Ganis and Sir Gaheris with them of North Galles, and then was Sir Persides smitten adown and almost slain, for more than 40 horsemen went over him. For Sir Bleoberis did great deeds of armies, and Sir Gaheris failed him not. When Sir Tristram beheld them, and saw them do such deeds of armies, he marvelled what they were. Also Sir Tristram thought shame that Sir Persides was so done to, and then he got a great spear in his hand, and rode to Sir Gaheris, and smote him down from his horse. So we don't have rules, really, right? Now, I'm not saying this is the only way that tournaments were ever done in the Middle Ages. We do get a more orderly jousting at lists. That's definitely a thing that does happen in some tournaments. We also have, for instance, the detailed description of the knightly tournament in the Knight's Tale, in the Canterbury Tales, which is really cool, where you actually get the rules where it's almost exactly like, it's like Capture the Flag, except with broadswords. Where you go, like it was a melee on foot, and you capture knights and you drag them prisoner back to your prison camp, and I don't think they can be rescued, but I think maybe they can be rescued. But the game is over when you've got the one captain on either side, and when you capture the other captain and bring the captain back to the prison area, then the tournament's over. That's what the rules are in The Knight's Tale, not the movie, not the Heath Ledger film. I mean, Chaucer's Knight's Tale, the real one. So like I said, it's almost exactly like Capture the Flag, except the two team captains are the flags, right? And it's played with deadly weapons. Well, no, it's played. They outlaw deadly weapons, which means you can use maces and broadswords, but you can't use daggers. That's the rule. Which seems like a peculiar rule at first. Like, okay, seriously, I can't use my tiny little blade, but I can use my big enormous blade, and that's meant to promote player safety, right? But yeah, it is, of course, because you use your dagger to stab to death the people that you knock down, right? So you can't do that, right? So no daggers, so that if you knock somebody down, they just, you don't drag their dead corpses back to the prison area. They stay alive. More fun. Anyway, so there are no obvious rules of any kind. That is, there's no goal to the game. There is not really a moment when one side or other wins by achieving some goal, right? That's not how it works. Instead, this appears to be simply a massive melee on horseback all day long, right? So, big old field, lots of stands. This is a huge spectator sport, right? You'll notice that later on we're told the estates were crying out, right? The estates were crying out. That means that all of the estates are... This isn't just a second estate affair, right? This is not just the nobles who are at this. All three of the estates are... Both the clergy and the commons have all turned out to watch this, right? This is a huge spectator sport. So huge field, right? Huge field, everybody just hurling and rushing all over the place, right? It's a free-for-all scrum. You are on teams, right? You're on the two teams, and so there is a general sort of sense of like one side wins over there. But again, there's no objectives to achieve exactly. It's just kind of which side is deemed to have done best that day. Whose deeds of arms have been which knights have shown the most prowess. And also, there is nobody pulls any punches here, right? Everyone is still fighting with deadly weapons at all times. And in fact, of course, we're going to read after this that during this, there are numerous fatalities at the tournament, right? So essentially, this is exactly like Patricia, it's exactly it. This is a war game, right? Let's pretend we're in a battle. And the only way it's different from a battle is that we'll all agree to be friends afterwards, right? I mean, there's nothing at stake other than ego. That's pretty much the only difference between this and a real battle. Yeah, so Nancy's wondering, isn't it a waste for these guys to kill each other in a tournament? Well, nah. I mean, yes and no, right? On the one hand, this is your job, right? I mean, if there aren't any wars, what are you meant to do? Remember, you're the second estate. What's your job? To fight, right? So if there's nobody to fight, you fight each other, right? You gain worship. You prove yourself against others, right? It's good. Sorry. Deborah says, only the wusses die anyway. Yeah, exactly. Weeding out the weak, right? Hey, it's a tough world. It's a tough world. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So they didn't have to worry about like post-concussion syndrome, which it's a good thing they don't, because there are plenty of people who get plenty concussed in this story, but it's okay. So, and again, there seem to be. I don't get the sense that there are any rules of any kind. I mean, like, you're not supposed to act in an unknightly fashion, but I mean, like, notice what they do to Sir Persides, right? They knock him off his horse, and then they like override him, right? They keep galloping their horses over top of him, apparently attempting to trample him to death, right? Which doesn't work out. I mean, he lives, and Sir Tristram rescues him. But I mean, it's like, if that's not against the rules, what rules do they have, right? It's yeah. Yeah. This is the greatest sport, though. We just have to accept this, understand how it works, acknowledge this, and we just try to move forward because we really like tournaments in Mallory's world. Okay. More Sir Dinadan. Sir Dinadan comes against Sir Tristram. So remember, Sir Tristram comes in on the side of North Wales, right? So he's fighting against Arthur's knights, most of them. There come in Sir Dinadan against Sir Tristram, and Sir Tristram gaf him such a buffet that he swooned upon his horse. And so anon Sir Dinadan come to Sir Tristram and sighed, Sire, I knew thee better than thou weenest, but here I promise thee my truth, I will never come against thee more, for I promise thee that sword of thine shall never come on my helm. Sir Dinadan he never disappoints, right? He comes in and the first half of his statement sounds like a very knightly pledge of friendship and loyalty, right? You have overcome me in battle, Sir Tristram, so I swear I shall never oppose you again. I shall always be at your side, except being Sir Dinadan, he adds, because I never want to get hit in the head with your sword ever again as long as I live. So I promise I will always fight on your side. So Dinadan switches sides. By the way, also obviously perfectly okay. There does not seem to be any shame in switching sides, even like on the field of battle. I don't even know how you know. I guess the only way that you know is when suddenly the guy who is fighting with you against the other guys is suddenly attacking you. And now you're like, oh, I guess he's switched sides. And no one seems bothered by this at all. Everyone just takes that in stride, apparently. I don't get that. I feel like I would have had problems had I been fighting in tournaments. But yeah, okay. Anyway, so Sir Dinadan switches sides, and he's now fighting with Sir Tristram. It is a little bit like Calvin Ball, as both Rachel and Dolores Stroke were saying. It's a little Calvin Ball-ish. Except instead of making up random rules all the time, there are no rules at all, and you just it's just an open melee where anything goes. Anyway, okay. Palomides is not having a good day. Palomides has lost to Sir Tristram again. Now, remember, this is when Sir Palomides, rather. So Dame Brangwaine is wandering through the woods, and she hears a knight screaming from over here, right? So she got a squire with her, so she and her squire come and find that Sir Palomides roped to a tree. He's been roped to a tree by Sir Bleoberis and Sir Gaheris, by Sir Ector and Sir Bors, actually, right? Who don't want him to be in the battle anymore. So they've come and they've tied him to a tree. Anyway, so there he is, tied to a tree, and Brangwaine rescues him. Remember, Sir Palomides found Brangwaine tied to a tree and rescued her earlier on. Remember with the whole rash vow of La Belle Isoud thing that happened before? That was the Dame Brangwaine tied to a tree. So she's now reciprocated the untying from a tree to Sir Palomides. And she comes back and tells Sir Tristram, hey, Sir Palomides was tied to a tree, I cut him loose, but he's still pretty upset, right? So Sir Tristram goes after him. Aye, woeful knecht Sir Palomides, what misadventure befalleth me that thus I am defoiled with falsehead and treason through Sir Bors and Sir Ector? Alas, he sighed, why live I so long? and then he got his sword in his hand, and made many strange signs and tokens, and so through in raging he threw his sword in that fountain. So he just throws his sword into the fountain. Then Sir Palomides wilded and wrung his hands, and at the last, for pure sorrow, he ran into that fountain, and sought after his sword. Then Sir Tristram saw that, and ran upon Sir Palomides, and held him in his arms fast. What art thou, sighed Sir Palomides, that holdeth me so? I am a man of this forest, that wold thee none harm. Alas, said Sir Palomides, I may never win worship where Sir Tristram is, for everywhere he is and I be, there get I no worship, and if he be awa, for the most party I have the gree, unless that Sir Launcelot be there, other else Sir Lamorak. Then Sir Palomides said, Honest in Ireland Sir Tristram put me to the worse, and another time in Cornwall, and in other places in this land. What wold ye do? Sighed Sir Tristram. And ye had Sir Tristram. I would fight with him, sighed Sir Palomides, and ease my heart upon him. And yet, to say the sooth, Sir Tristram is the gentlest knight in this world living. Sire, what will ye do? Sighed Sir Tristram. Will ye go with me to your lodging? And Sir Tristram has him back to his pavilion, and puts him up and makes sure nobody's like, Sir Dinadan, like, psh, nobody give away. So he doesn't realize that he spends the night in Sir Tristram's pavilion at all, right? They try not to give away the fact that he's with Sir Tristram. So Sir Tristram saves him. Notice when he goes and holds Sir Palomides in his arms fast. Why does he do that? Right? He does that because he's afraid Sir Palomides is going to drown himself in the fountain. Sir Palomides is armed, after all. He'd drown if he threw himself in, right? So he's trying to keep Palomides from harming himself, either with his sword or with the water, right? And listens to Sir Palomides venting about his frustration about how Sir Tristram is always stealing his honor, his worship from him, right? What would you do if Sir Tristram were here right now? I would fight with him and ease my heart upon him, right? Sir Palomides doesn't want to murder Sir Tristram, right? He doesn't want to just do him in and get rid of him. He wants to beat him once and for all, right? He wants to prove himself. He wants to show that he can measure up to Sir Tristram, if only once. Dolorous Stroke, I don't know what the strange signs and tokens were that he was making. I think... So they're seeing him from a distance. Tristram has come upon him, and he's seeing him from a distance here. Strange signs and tokens. I think he's like making wild gesticulations and threatening to stab himself with the sword. I think these are like... I take this as various external signs of suicidal ideations on Sir Palomides' part, is what I take. It's possible, Devra, that this has something to do with being a Saracen, that he's doing something vaguely Muslimish, right? Or like whatever that would look like, whatever Mallory would think that would look like, right? I'm not really sure. It's possible. Though, Devra, we are reminded that Sir Palomides is a Saracen, that he's not christened. But we're rarely reminded that he's something else, right? He's not a Christian yet, formally, but he's not really very Muslim either. It is possible, Tarloniel, that he's just doing something foreign, right? That is possible. But again, I tend to think that the strange signs and tokens are not foreign, non-English carryings on Sir Palomides' part, but rather, like, this guy is, 1 or 2 steps away from running naked into the woods kind of strange signs and tokens. Speaking of being a Saracen and as yet unchristened, you know what I literally never thought of until this evening? Where is this all happening? What does Tristram just save Palomides from doing? What was he just about to do? Or did he look like he might do? Immerse himself in a font. Am I the only one who finds that a little odd? Right? A little conspicuous? Right? I mean, he has this... And you know, okay, so you know when this occurred to me? This occurred to me when I was about to make a joke. So when I was typing the Twitch notification before I started class tonight, I was about to make a crack about, like, you know, don't let Sir Palomides get near a body of water. And then I'm like, yeah, like a baptismal font, maybe? Yeah, he does have an issue with bodies of water, doesn't he? Yeah. No, this is certainly not a baptism, right? And I certainly agree, David, that he's preventing him from dying a heathen, right? I mean, suicide is a bad look whether you're baptized or not, right? I mean, suicide, I think we've talked about that, haven't we? Was it in this class or somewhere else we talked about this? The very sort of rigorously logical reason that the medievals were very harsh on suicide, right? Because you've committed murder and it's literally impossible. It's like logically impossible for you to repent the deed after you've done it. And so therefore, if you commit suicide, inescapably, you go to the afterworld with a mortal sin on your conscience, which you can't have possibly been shrived of beforehand. It was when we were talking about in the Boethius class, was it? We were talking about that. Yeah. So anyway, so suicide is bad news whether you're Christian or heathen. But we already saw that, like, La Belle Isoud was worried that Sir Palomides was going to die unchristened. Right? She wasn't into him, but she didn't want him to go to hell either. So she tries to save his life. I definitely agree that's what Tristram is doing here. I just can't help but notice this is happening in a font. I'm not saying that there's a literal baptism here, that like all he has to do is dunk himself and he's fine. What I mean, symbolically is all I'm saying. Symbolically. The fact that Sir Palomides, the conspicuously unbaptized knight, is threatening to immerse himself in a font. I'm just saying, it's baptism-ish, right? I can't kind of escape. I'm not sure what to do with it, but it seems like that can't really be an accident. Yeah. Exactly, Stephen. Yes, Dante is very thoughtful and interesting about the suicides that he places, where he places, and what happens with them in Inferno. But no spoilers in case we read that someday. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, like I said, not quite sure what to do with it yet. Well, we may recall this scene later on. Palomides is enormously frustrated. He's envious of Tristram. Envy, remember, one of the 7 deadly sins. But he also admires and respects Tristram and seemed to be genuinely worried about him when Tristram was running mad in the woods, right? And Tristram himself, I agree, who was it who was saying that this is, Marilyn was saying this might be Tristram's most honorable act. Yes, I think that nowhere in this book does Sir Tristram look as attractive as he does in this moment when he is saving Sir Palomides' life and bringing him back and not letting him know who's, that taking care of him, and I'm going to conceal my identity from him so that he's not upset about it and he doesn't get all, hot and bothered about the fact that I'm here and jump up and want to fight me, right? Let's just, he'll be fine. I agree. I think that this is really one of Tristram's finest moments. And then the next day, right? Tristram has said he's going to be on whatever side Sir Palomides is not on, right? He's going to be opposed to Sir Palomides. So he meets Sir Tristram has just knocked Sir Palomides and King Arthur off their horses. And thon by force of King Arthur's connectes, the king and Sir Palomides were horsed again. Then King Arthur, with a great eager heart, he gat a great spear in his hand, and thereupon the onside he smote Sir Tristram over his horse. Then foot hot Sir Palomides come upon Sir Tristram, as he was upon foot to have overridden him. Then Sir Tristram was ware of him, and stooped a little aside, and with great ire he got him by the armes, and pulled him down from his horse. Then Sir Palomides leekly arose, and they dashed together with their sweardes mightily, that many kinges, queenes, lordes, and laddies stood and beheld them. And at the last Sir Tristram smote Sir Palomides upon the helm 3 mighty strokes, and at every stroke that he gaf he sighed, "Have this for Sir Tristram's sack." And with that Sir Palomides fell to the earth groveling. Dollar Stroke says, wow, that redemption of Tristram didn't last long. Yes, okay, all right. So part of me wants to do an apologist Tristram reading where I say, okay, he says he's going to be on the other side from Sir Palomides because he wants to give Sir Palomides the chance to fight him, right? You know, remember he says, what would you do if you had Sir Tristram with you now? And he's like, I would fight him, right? He has said again and again, I want to prove myself against Sir Tristram. So I'd like to think that Sir Tristram is being charitable, right, and being like, okay, I'll give him a fair crack tomorrow, right? I'll give you another shot at the title. But have this for Sir Tristram's sake kind of seems like rubbing it in, right? At the end of the day, he's going to beat he seems to have some pity for Sir Palomides, but he's going to keep beating him. He's not going to stop. Right? He's not going to sandbag it against Sir Palomides. And Sir Palomides kind of tries to kill him, right? Comes upon him at disadvantage when Tristram is unhorsed and Palomides is horsed. Things are still pretty rough around the edges here on both sides, but they're not done. Afterwards, Sir Tristram meets Lancelot in the field, and Lancelot accidentally impales him. Right, so the truncheon of Lancelot's spear is still sticking out of Sir Tristram's side, and he flees the field, and is off in the woods, and Sir Dinadan is still with him and very concerned on his behalf, right? And anon Sir Dinadan was where come Sir Palomides riding straight upon them, and Sir Tristram was ware that Sir Palomides come to have destroyed him. And so Sir Dinadan gaf him warning, and sighed, Sir Tristram, my lord, ye are so wounded that ye may not have ado with him. Therefore I will ride against him, and do to him what I may, and if I be slain, ye may pray for my soul. And so in the meanwhile ye may withdraw you, and go into the castle or in the forest, and there he shall not meet with you. Look at Sir Dinadan, like, I'll sacrifice myself to allow you to escape, right? Though if I be slain, you may pray for my soul. That's not a joke. That's very serious. But again, it still sounds slightly Sir Dinadan-ish, doesn't it? Right? Like a little bit whimsical, right? Don't worry about me, sir. Anyway, Sir Tristram smiled and said, I thank you, Sir Dinadan, of your goodwill, but ye shall understand that I am able to handle him. And anon hastily he armed him, and took his horse, and a great spear in his hand, and said to Sir Dinadan, Adieu, and rode toward Sir Palomides a soft pass. When Sir Palomides saw him, he aleeked, and made a countenance to amend his horse, but he did it for this cause, for he abode Sir Gaheris that come after him, and when he was come, he rode toward Sir Tristram. So Sir Palomides is stalling, right? He gets off his horse, and appears to, be fixing something, right, on his horse, on his horse's tack, right? But he's just wasting time. He's just trying to give Sir Gaheris time to catch up with him, so that he's got a second here in this moment, right? Then he rides towards Sir Tristram. Then Sir Tristram sent unto Sir Palomides, and required him to just with him. And if he smote down Sir Palomides, he will do no more to him. And if Sir Palomides smote down Sir Tristram, he bade him do his utterance. And so they were accorded and met togethers. Tristram insists on fighting Sir Palomides again, despite his own, Sir Tristram's, very grievous injury, right? Notice the unequal terms. If I knock you off your horse, I am not getting down off this horse to fight you on foot, because, I only say this because I do not have the strength to stand. But if you knock me off my horse, well, you might as well do his utterance, by which I believe Tristram means, if you knock me off this horse, I'll probably be dead anyway, right? I'll probably be dead when I hit the ground. So, yeah, go ahead, do your worst. But he insists he won't let Sir Dinadan go against him. He insists on taking the fight to himself, and he can't follow it up. He's too injured to continue the fight with Palomides afterwards. And of course, Sir Tristram takes him down and goes right after Sir Gaheris. He rides right through Palomides and comes after Sir Gaheris, who's like, oh crap, and barely manages to defend himself before Sir Tristram is upon him and takes him down too, all still with the great wound in his side here. How would you read this? Is this Sir Tristram just being stubborn, right? Is this merely Sir Tristram himself being so arrogant that he insists on fighting despite his injury, that he insists that he can take Sir Palomides even though he's already been grievously wounded? Is there just he under no circumstances will he will not give Sir Palomides of all knights the satisfaction any other knight in the world that came after him, and he'd be like, dude, can we have a rain check? Can we come back another time maybe? But not Sir Palomides, right? With Sir Palomides, he's going to insist on going through with it. I'm not completely sure, really, how to read this here. Is he angry, Sir Tristram? Is he arrogant? Arrogant in a bad way. Being having a high opinion of your own worship is totally normal for knights. That's clearly not a vice in their books. But yeah, I agree with you, Dolly. It is interesting that Lancelot is tuckered out from the ambush and takes the first day off, but Tristram fights with a spear still in him. Honestly, I read that as like one of them has something to prove and the other one does not, right? Tristram's not even been made a Knight of the Round Table yet, and most of them, King Arthur most notably, is really meeting Sir Tristram for the first time. The tournament at the Council of Maidens is in many ways like the official coming out party. He's like the debutante of the ball here. Sir Tristram is in many ways. Many of them individually have met him. Sir Bleoberis certainly knows him, right? Sir Blamor de Ganys certainly knows him. Sir Palomides, obviously. There are lots of them who have had encounters with him before individually, but King Arthur has never met him. Sir Lancelot has never fought him. I don't think that they formally met even at all. So this is really the first time that he's able to fight in person in front of the whole audience here. So yeah, he definitely has more to prove. But this is private. This third meeting is not in the field. This is off in the woods afterwards, when Palomides has pursued him into the woods because he doesn't want to let him get away, because he wants to make sure that they finish it once and for all, if possible. But, of course, he loses again. Then the crowd cries at the end that Sir Lancelot wins the day. So Lancelot comes in near the end. He accidentally damages Sir Tristram, but then he does really great deeds of arms for the rest of the day, and everyone's like, Sir Lancelot wins the day. And Sir Lancelot, no, Sir Tristram should be the winner. He's the one who started first, and I came in at the end. I don't deserve the prize. Then all the estates and degrees, high and low, side of Sir Lancelot, great worship for the honour that he did to Sir Tristram, and for the honour doing by Sir Lancelot. He was at that time more prized and renowned than and he had overthrown 500 kingdoms, and all the people hold for his gentleness, first the estates, high and low, and after the commonalty, at honest cried, Sir Launcelot hath won the grey, whosoever saith nay. And than was Sir Launcelot wroth and ashamed, and so therewithal he rode to King Arthur. Note, there's no panel of judges, right? There is no panel of judges. Who wins the tournament is who is acclaimed by the crowd as a whole, right? Everybody gets a voice, literally, in this. Everyone's just shouting who they think won at the end. Often there's a consensus, right? That seems to happen quite a bit. And everybody, all the estates and degrees, high and low, right? That gets repeated twice, right? Everybody. From the peasants to the kings, all agree that Lancelot should win, and everybody approves not only of Lancelot's skill, but of his honor, right? Of his humility in trying to lobby to give the gree, as Palomides said, to give the prize of the day to Tristram instead of to him himself. Okay. Almost done. Just a couple more. I started a little bit late, so we'll finish up here. And thus we let pass King Arthur, and a little we will turn unto Sir Palomides, that after he had a fall of Sir Tristram, he was nigh hond arraged out of his wit for despite of Sir Tristram, and so he followed him by adventure. And as he come by a river, in his woodness he would have made his horse have lopen over the water, and the horse filed footing and fell in the river. Wherefore Sir Palomides was adrad lest he should have been drowned. And then he avoided his horse, and swam to the land, and let his horse go down by adventure. And when he come to the land, he took off his harness, and sat roaming and crying as a man out of his mind. Palomides, again, he's a quarter step away from his own spell naked in the wilderness, right? Wood, by the way, of course, in case, I'm sure you picked up on this, wood means crazy, right? I mean, it also means wood, but it also means, if you do something as if you were well nigh wood, right? It means insane, crazy. And in his woodness here, I love that word. Something about that word that is delightful. As he come by a river in his woodness, he would have made his horse. So he was so wood at the time that he tried to have his horse jump this huge river, which didn't pan out, it turns out. Is it related to wildness? Yeah, maybe, in a sense. But Sir Palomides is out of his mind with anger and frustration and presumably a certain amount of self-loathing, as he has again failed to overcome Sir Tristram, given another chance, this time at unfair advantage when Tristram was wounded, and Tristram beat him again, right? I think the only reason Sir Palomides doesn't strip off all of his clothes and run into the woods is that there's no woman involved, right? But we never see any other knight act quite like this, right? There are some people who get ticked off at Lancelot, but only really out of vengeance for dead relatives. Sir Palomides' issue, the extremity of Sir Palomides' rage and frustration at again and again, being really, really good, but not quite the best, is super frustrating. Yes, he's roaming Exactly. Yeah. As Nynaeve says, "Hey, the Lady of the Lake has joined us." As Nynaeve says, he's roaming and crying. So he's like wandering up and down and crying out and yelling as a man out of his mind. Yeah. Yeah. And then he does catch up with Tristram, and they're both in the same house. And Sir Tristram, of course, remember, is wounded, and he's been taken in by this guy, who then discovers that Sir Tristram killed 3 of his sons at that tournament, right? So then, without any tarrying, Sir Darras put Sir Tristram, Sir Palomides, and Sir Dinadan within a strong prison, and there Sir Tristram was like to have died of great sickness. And every day Sir Palomides would reprieve Sir Tristram of old hot betwixt them, and ever Sir Tristram spak fire, and said little. But when Sir Palomides see that Sir Tristram was fall in sickness, then was he heavy for him, and comforted him in all the best wise he could. And as the French book saith, there came 40 kneechtes to Sir Darras that were of his own kin, and they would have slain Sir Tristram and his fellows. But Sir Darras would not suffer that, but kept them in prison, and meat and drink they had. By the way, I don't know what Sir Darras's end game is here. Like, so he's holding them prisoner because he's mad that Sir Tristram killed his sons in the tournament, but he won't let. But then his own kin come and want to execute them, and he won't let them do it. He wants to keep. So, like, what's his plan? Just to keep him prisoner indefinitely? Does he have a term in mind? Is there some way that he's gonna make Tristram make amends? He doesn't mention it, right? So I don't really know what Sir Darras's long-term plan is here. But notice how Sir Palomides comes around, right? At the beginning, they're both in prison, and you got to imagine this is not Sir Palomides is not pleasant company for Sir Tristram in prison, right? He would reprieve him of old hot betwixt them. So he's throwing the old hatred between them in Tristram's face every day. And Tristram is speaking fair and saying little, right? Tristram won't rise to it. Tristram is speaking softly to him. And then Sir Tristram gets sick. And when Sir Palomides sees that, he's heavy for him. He's sad, and he comforts him in all the best wise that he could. Karina, I agree. I mean, these guys, I'm telling you, like, I want a buddy movie about Sir Palomides and Sir Tristram, right? I mean, can't you see it? You know, Sir Tristram being like the really annoying, privileged, like high school quarterback jock kind of character who just happens to be really attractive and like can't help the fact that he's more athletically talented than everybody else, right? And always comes in first at everything. And oh, by the way, he also is like, you know, lead guitarist in a band and you know, like wrote the book about how to slaughter deer, so many things, right? And then here's Sir Palomides, right? The outsider, the foreigner, the only not white guy in this whole place, right? He's a Saracen. And so he's an outsider in the culture, and he's almost made it, right? And he's accepted and respected by everybody, but every single time gets beaten out by Sir Tristram. And yet, you know, like the mutual respect and these moments, right? With I'm telling you, like, this, didn't I say at the beginning, right, that Sir Palomides would make a fantastic protagonist for a movie? I'm telling you, I can't wait for the Sir Palomides movie. Has to happen someday. It just has to. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So Sir Tristram endured there great pine, for sickness had undertook him, and that is the greatest pine a prisoner may have. For all the while a prisoner may have his health of body, he may endure under the mercy of God and in hope of good deliverance. But when sickness toucheth a prisoner's body, then may a prisoner say all wealth is him bereft, and then hath he cause to wail and weep. Right so did Sir Tristram, when sickness had undertook him. For then he took such sorrow that he had almost slain himself. Yes, if Jennifer, if you're thinking that this sounds like a touch of autobiography here, Rachel's saying that he seems to be speaking from personal experience. And Nancy, yeah. No, I definitely, this paragraph absolutely sounds like the most indirectly autobiographical paragraph in the whole book, actually. This bit is not in the French books. This is Mallory adding this. And he's been a night prisoner and can tell you from experience, you don't want to be sick while you're in prison. Anything else, man, you can bear up, right? But boy, being sick is completely miserable. And here's Tristram hating his life, and here is his greatest mortal enemy comforting him in all the best wise that he can throughout his difficult sickness. Tune in next time for more Sir Tristram and Sir Palomides. So I totally neglected, and it's absolutely my fault, to get your next reading assignment up. We've run out of the reading assignments that I had placed on before. What we're going to do, so the next section in the Vinavra edition is called the Round Table. So we'll do the whole section on the Round Table. And then the part after that is called King Mark, and it's rather long in the Vinavra edition. So we'll probably do about half of that. But go ahead and read. Hope if you're keeping up with the reading very virtuously, you will have read the Round Table section for today. We'll do that next time, plus read the King Mark section, and we'll do as much as we can of that. I hope to go at least halfway through that for next time. We'll get to talk smack about King Mark next time, which will be a lot of fun. Sir Dagonet is involved, right? It's going to be fun. So anyway, okay. So I will see you guys next week for more nightly adventures. Thanks everybody for being with me. Bye now.
The Mythgard Academy has been offering in-depth discussions of awesome books and films since 2013, completely free to attend and free to download. If you've enjoyed our discussions and would like to help them continue, please consider donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.